The distress beacon cut through the void like a scream in the darkness. Elsa's fingers flew across the holographic display as she isolated the signal, her breath catching when she recognized the frequency. It was Korvathi, one of the peaceful trading species that had first welcomed humanity into the Galactic Coalition 15 years ago. "Leo, get up here," she called down to the engineering bay, her voice tight with urgency. Within seconds, her partner materialized beside her on the bridge of the Wandering Star. Still wiping machine oil from his calloused hands, Leo took one look at her face and knew something was terribly wrong. "What is it?" "Listen." Elsa played the message. The translation matrix struggled with the Korvathi dialect, but the desperation needed no interpretation. "Eat colonies burning. Vexthor raiders, slaughtering civilians. Coalition forces 3 cycles away, please, anyone." The message dissolved into static, then silence. Leo's jaw clenched. "Where?" "Korvath Prime, Outer Rim. We're 2 days out if we push the engines." "The Coalition will get there first," Leo said, but his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Elsa pulled up the tactical display. Red markers swarmed across the Korvathi system like a plague. "The Coalition response fleet is staging at Nexus Station. Protocols, committees, authorization codes. They'll debate for days before moving." Her eyes met his. "The Korvathi don't have days." Leo didn't hesitate. "Plot the course. I'll get the weapons online." "We're a cargo hauler, Leo. We have 3 plasma cannons and optimism. Then we better make them count." He was already moving toward the armory, and we're not going alone. Within an hour, Elsa had sent out a coded transmission on the Human Emergency Network, an unofficial channel that the Coalition barely tolerated. Humanity had learned long ago that when bureaucracy failed, sometimes you needed people willing to act. The responses came flooding in. Merchant vessel Iron Phoenix changing course. ETA 40 hours mining colony New Perth volunteers reporting. Commandeering 3 ore haulers. Armed and ready. This is Admiral Chen of the UHNS Valkyrie. Negative on official engagement. But my fighters seem to have developed navigation errors. See you there. By the time the Wandering Star entered the Korvathi system, they weren't alone. 37 human vessels of every shape and size had answered the call. Cargo ships converted to gun platforms. Civilian yachts bristling with jury-rigged weapons, corporate security vessels, and even a few military ships whose captains had developed sudden communication failures. The Vexthor raiders were expecting easy prey. What they found was something the galaxy had forgotten. Humans didn't ask for permission to do the right thing. Elsa coordinated the fleet from her captain's chair, her commands crisp and clear. "Phoenix, take your group high. New Perth crews, low approach. Valkyrie's fighters, you're our spearhead. We hit them everywhere at once." Leo manned the weapon station, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Multiple targets locked. "Waiting on your mark, Captain." The Vexthor flagship, a massive dreadnought called Blood Harvest, dominated the space above Korvath Prime. Its weapons were currently trained on a civilian evacuation center on the planet's surface. "All ships." Elsa's voice cut through every comm channel. "Engage at will. Show them what happens when you threaten the innocent." The human fleet struck like a hammer. The Vexthor had spent centuries raiding weaker species with impunity, secure in their superior firepower, and the Coalition's endless deliberations. They had never faced an enemy that fought with humanity's particular brand of controlled chaos, a species that valued individual initiative over rigid tactics, that saw impossible odds as merely inconvenient. Leo's first shot took out the Blood Harvest's shield generator. The second crippled its main cannon. "That's for the families you murdered," he muttered. Around them, the battle became a symphony of destruction. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids carved through raider hulls. Cargo ships rammed enemy vessels that threatened evacuation transports. Fighter pilots performed maneuvers that violated 6 safety regulations but saved thousands of lives. The Vexthor commander broadcasted a wide-spectrum message, his translator carrying notes of disbelief. "You are civilians. This is not your fight. The Coalition has not authorized." Elsa cut him off mid-sentence. "The Coalition doesn't speak for humanity. We don't need authorization to help people being murdered. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw immediately, or we're going to turn your fleet into scrap metal and use it to rebuild what you destroyed. You cannot defeat us. We outnumber." Leo's tactical screen showed the Vexthor fleet composition. They had the numbers, true, but numbers meant nothing when your enemy had already decided they were willing to die to save strangers. You're right, Elsa said calmly. You might destroy us. But the thing about humans? We remember, and we have hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships, millions of people who will hear what happened here today. Is plundering one system worth becoming humanity's enemy? The silence stretched. On the surface of Korvath Prime, Korvathi civilians watched the impossible battle unfolding above their world. A ragtag fleet of humans, outnumbered and outgunned, refusing to yield. The Vexthor commander's next transmission was tight with barely controlled rage. This is not finished. Yes, Leo said quietly. It is. The raider fleet began to withdraw, leaving behind damaged ships and shattered pride. The humans didn't pursue. They were already moving to help evacuate survivors and begin repairs. As the wandering star took up position in orbit, coordinating relief efforts, Elsa received a transmission from the Korvathi planetary governor. The translator struggled with the emotion in their voice. Why? Your coalition said help was cycles away. Why did you come? Elsa looked at Leo, saw her own answer reflected in his eyes. She thought of all the human ships that had dropped everything to race towards strangers in need. She thought of crews who had risked everything because it was right. Because someone called for help, she said simply. And humans answer. Throughout the galaxy, other species watched the recordings of the battle. They saw the official coalition response, condemnation of unauthorized military action, violations of protocols, demands for explanations. But they also saw 37 human ships that didn't wait for permission to do what was right. They saw a species that valued compassion over compliance, action over authorization. The call for aid had gone out, and humanity had responded, not with politics or procedures, but with fury at injustice and an unshakable belief that some things mattered more than rules. The galaxy would remember. The end.